My name is Monique Braswell. I am the Richmond County Council of PTA's president, which clearly just says that I am over all of the PTAs who are in Richmond and Burke County. I service about 48 schools. Pretty much like their overseer to make sure that the PTAs are running the way that they should. I am a mother of 4 who have 4 children who are in the Richmond County school system. I've lived here for, I'm going to say, 8 years, and I came here, when I came here I was homeless with my 4 children. And I very strong in, I believe very strong in community service. I sit on the board of CSRA EOA. I was appointed to that board because I was a client of theirs. And after getting out of their program honorably, I was appointed to the board to serve on this side, which says that I can understand the community and the homeless piece and to give input into what goes on inside that agency. I also am the president of a motorcycle club that's very community active.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm a wife too.
All right, well, I guess we can now begin questions, and Tracy.
Well, since you represent all the members of the PTAs for all the schools, we know that not everyone goes to the board meetings, not everyone is up to date with everything going on at the central office. So for the average person who's in PTA, what are they most concerned about day to day? What's the average parent concerned about in the school system? Pretty much it is the education and what's going on inside the school with the teachers and the principal. That's what they're most concerned about.
How active is the PTA, your organization, at this point? What's the participation level, and are you satisfied with it? Where should it be at this point in your
Here's the thing, the face of PTA is definitely changing. Years ago, PTAs were expected to sit in the school or they take names, service volunteers, and make copies and raise money. That was PTA years ago. You know, with today's economy, parents really can't afford to sit inside the school and sit at the desk and do those kind of things. They give as much time as they can. This year, opposed to last year, the percentage of parent involvement inside the school on a regular basis is up 23%. I can only assume last year that the percentage was lower than 23%. I know that my leaders are in the schools as much as they need to be, handling the business of the PTA and the needs of the schools. For example, during registration, we have a PTA table there, and we have people there who are there to collect membership and assist in whatever needs to be done as far as helping during registration. Doing testing time, we're making sure that after the testing that there are some treats and some things there for the children, and some things being done there as well for the faculty. One of the things that I have definitely strived very hard to make the leaders understand is that you have to work very closely with the principal. If you know the needs of the schools, of your school, then you get more done. So them being inside the school like they used to be, like 7 hours, you know, like they had the time to sit there, that's not happening a lot. But they're there as much as they need to be there. before I got in the position that I was in, I was sitting in the school every single day. Was I really sitting in the school just because, I felt like it's what I needed to do? I was sitting in the school observing what went on. If my children went from grade 5 to grade 6, I sat there that entire year every day. And I did little things around the school, and I got to know who the people were in the school, the teachers, not just my kids' teachers, everybody. I was there also to greet parents and say things like, hey, why you don't come over? We're having this function and participate. And that's how we start to draw the parents in, being very accessible. But what I was doing also was taking notes of the things that I thought that was inappropriate. And I had a principal that was wonderful that I could go into her office and I'd say, this happened today and I didn't like this very much. And then the second year came along, they automatically knew what I would and what I would not expect. And when you bring the concerns to the principal, my principals made those changes.
You mentioned, I want to get back to the participation level for a second. You said like 23%.
Up 23%.
It's up 23%. Is that good, bad? Or
That's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing because for so long, PTA inside the schools were just and only known as a fundraising entity. And that's the face that we're changing now. We do more. We do so much more than fundraising.
What does a good PTA, a strong PTA group do for an individual school, for example? How does it help?
A strong PTA meets all the needs, such as what all the budget restraints that the schools have on them now. They would sit down with their principal and they would say, what are the things that you would like to see your PTA do for your school? For example, if a principal says, we would love to have a marquee outside where we can have digital things on the outside that says, this is what's happening at this school, or we would really like to purchase some more library books. Those are the things that the PTAs can be doing. Now, make no mistake, we absolutely positively cannot purchase curriculum books because there is money in the budget for that. We also we should not, but some schools have been known to do it, is to send teachers for curriculum training. We just should not be doing those type of things there. But the strong PTA is the one that adheres to the needs that the teachers and the principals say that is needed in their schools. If you're raising the funds in the school, you raise $50,000 and you spend, and this is my philosophy and this is what is being taught to them, and you spend $20,000 on the needs of the schools, then you better be spending $20,000 on the needs of the children. Okay, so that's your strong PTA.
The last time we spoke, you said there's 10,788 members.
It's 10,700 and I'm going to say about 95 because I got some new members last night.
All right. Well, that 10,000 people, they're people who have signed up for PTA and paid their dues, right?
Yes.
But I imagine not all those 10,000 people are, doing fundraisers, going to meetings, right?
No, actually, no, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're not.
So how do you get parents to not just sign up their name and pay their $30 or whatever and then call it quits? How do you get them to actually participate?
If I find that there's a PTA in Augusta and Burke County that's charging $30 to get a parent to sign up.
All right, well, 30 is just an example, whatever their dues are, and then just forget it,
It's not a matter that we get them to sign up and just forget it. They realize that what they're loaning us is their voice. Mm-hmm. A lot of parents are reluctant to signing up for PTA because they say they don't have the time. I can't come and sit at the school. I work this hour, I work that hour. And we say, hey, we have your voice. You can come in and pitch in when you can. Is it okay if I give you a phone call? We may be having an event that you'll be able to stop by, or if we're having a function and your child is going to be here, maybe you can come 30 minutes early and help break down or set up. So they're fine with that. people think that when you sign up for PTA that you have to be there all the time. For example, if you sign up for PTA, you work down at the newsroom. I know you can't come to my school all the time, but you're a community person, and I would be able to call you and say, hey, we have this going on at the school, maybe can you cover this for me, because you are a PTA member.
Is it 48 schools, is what you said?
Yes.
Have you seen any correlation between the strength of particular PTA groups in schools and the performance of those schools?
I actually want to get the stats from last night. I can tell you one school that I can definitely say that I know that with their PTA and their numbers are thriving very good, which would be Freedom Park. They have a very strong PTA, which also would be Willis Foreman. Will also be Murphy. No, I ain't gonna leave them out. Because I know what they do there. Yeah. And I know how hard that they work, and sometimes it's not just on them, it's on us as parents. I could pretty much go down the list and say all of them, but I can't see what the scores are,
sure,
what they're working with. But I want to go definitely on the record and say that I feel everywhere that there's a PTA that the schools have made improvement.
Okay. And I'm sure some organizations are better organized and have more motivated and have better leaders, and others it's not uniform.
Oh, definitely, definitely. You know, we've had to change leaders a few times midstream because some people's perception of what PTA is about was wrong. Some people really think that PTA is just here to raise money, that they have to do nothing but just raise money. Like they don't have to go to training, they don't have to adhere to the bylaws, that they don't have to be held accountable for things. So that is just not what we're about.
Is it more difficult to get members involved when you have, I mean, I think single parent families are more prevalent nowadays than in the past when PTA was, when I was a kid, you know. So is it more difficult because you know, one parent working sometimes two jobs, hard to get them down to the school to do things?
That's a 50-50.
Yeah.
You have some parents that do that and make time. See, for me, the parent that says, oh, I really don't have the time, I always find time. You know, I say, well, how about are you good with the computer? How about if I just ask you to make a flyer for us? See, there's so many different ways that they chip in, that they are chipping in.
Yeah.
You know, if their school is doing a fundraiser, I say, hey, you working in Augusta Chronicle, take this down there, you know. They're still helping, you know, so it's 50-50 on that. You know, it just really all depends what the individual school is doing as to whether any parent wants to be involved. I'm at 2 different schools. I'm less active, actually, right now in both my children's school. You know, they see me, I'm like in and out. One of my kids' school, I've only made 1 PTA meeting for the year. And the reason behind that is because I'm at everybody else's kids' school PTA meetings. But I'm well aware as to what's going on because I'm in constant contact with my leaders. I have monthly meetings, roundtable meetings for my leaders, monthly. And I'm caught up as to what's going on at their school, any gripes, anything that they need some direction in. Sometimes our meetings are strictly about principals. You know, my principal is not working with me. Sometimes our meetings are strictly about their board members. Sometimes our meetings are very creative as to what we're going to be doing in the community.
What's the relationship between PTA and the Board of Education?
You mean PTA? You mean Ms. Braswell, the council president, and the Board of Education?
I guess,
or PTA as a whole?
I guess both. Like, what's the relationship, you being the leader, the president of all the councils, and the Board of Education, and how how close is the relationship between the board members and the school PTA groups in their districts?
Well, I want to speak on a personal level. I have very good relationships with quite a few of the board members as it relates to PTA. They are PTA members at several schools. I know we have 3 or 4 board members that they're PTA members at every one of their schools that they represent. I have a good relationship with quite a few of them where I'm comfortable enough to call them and discuss some issues that maybe my leaders have. But of course there's a chain of command, so just jumping over directly to the board member would just drop me back down to what's up underneath the board member. So some relationships are good, some are bad. I can say all of my leaders know who their board member representative is for the school that they are in charge of.
I wanted to talk to you a second about a couple of issues that's been out there. One is the House Resolution 1162 regarding charter school legislation. You are an outspoken opponent of this. The only Augusta area legislators to vote for this particular issue were, I think, Republicans. Pretty simple.
It's not true.
Huh?
That's not true.
Oh, that's not true. Okay.
Senator Davis voted for it. He's a Democrat.
Okay. Why? Okay. Well, why is it? Why? Talk to me a little bit about your opposition to this and why you feel it will do harm to the public school system.
Here's the thing. House Resolution 1162 is going to create another system inside of our system. When you have a school board, whether you're satisfied with them or not, we put them there. So when we put them there saying that we trust the decisions that you all will be making on behalf of our children. With the charter school legislation, it totally takes the power away from us as parents and the local board of education, and it gives the power to the state. In saying that, I feel that our local board of education pretty much knows the direction that the school system should be going into, and if I go before them and I say that I would like to start a school here in your area and they say no, that they have good enough reasons to say no, and for you to be able to go to the state and the state says yes, not knowing enough about the needs of the people here, then I think that that is very, very, very much wrong. I am not against charter schools. I am for conversion charter schools, which are charter schools like Jenkins White, which, if I have a problem with anything going on at Jenkins White, I can go to Jenkins White, I can go to their governance board, and I can go to the Board of Education. I'm going to hold someone accountable at all levels. And with these state charter school commissions, I called the state 3 weeks ago. I'm still waiting to get a return phone call. It's not fair. We're opening up the doors to a whole lot of issues. And for me, discrimination is a big one. People are always talking about the underprivileged, the minority, the poor, the blacks, the whites. But we're opening up doors for more discrimination against our children. And we are taking away the voice of the parents and our local board. This is the time that the parents' voices need to be heard. If parents don't know now, this is the time to take your voice back. Definitely. So that's my problem. We're creating a system inside of a system.
Do you think the public understands that difference, that we're not talking about charter schools in general. We're talking about charter schools that are controlled by the state, not the local school board. Do you think people get that difference?
I think now they're beginning to get it with all the community meetings that's being held, with all the publicity that we're getting here in Augusta. I can't speak for other parts of Georgia, but I know here in Augusta, the people are actually starting to get it now. Do we have 100% of the people on board? Absolutely not. You have some people that are just so angry and so bitter with our system that they're willing to try anything. And at the end of the day, my position on it is this. Let's try to fix this system, because it's fixable. You know, it's definitely fixable. And if I was really dissatisfied with everything that went on here as a parent, I would just take my kid out and go somewhere else. You know, if you're not willing to be a part of the solution, why create another problem? Just go somewhere else. You know, I'm not always satisfied with the decisions that they make downtown. But either I can fight with them or I can fight against them. And on this 1162, I am fighting with them.
You rightly corrected me on the Senator Davis vote. Which brings me to this question. How disappointed were you in his vote, and what do you think his reasons were for going against the tide of the other, I guess, the Democratic legislators?
As to his reason, I don't even care what his reason was, because I've heard so many different reasons. And he has personally never sat down with me and told me personally what his reasons was. I've read an article, I've gotten an email that said some reasoning, and I've done an interview with him, and I've seen things on TV. But until he personally sits down with me and look me in my face and tell me why, I can't comment on that. I will tell you this. I was very hurt, and I was very bothered by him going against us. He did send out an email-based, and I was on that email. And he said that this bill is going to pass whether or not I vote no, or whether or not he votes yes. I said, and that's fine. My email back to him is, that's fine if it passes, as long as it does not pass with you saying yes. And I came back and I said, as long as you say no, I'm okay. If it passes, I will fight that battle in the end. But I never thought I would have to fight my senator.
One of the big problems in Georgia is childhood obesity. I don't know if you know this, we're second behind only Mississippi in terms of the rate of childhood obesity, either overweight or obese. Do you feel like this, and a lot of people point to the schools as a place where we should be intervening more, where we can, kids are there 8 hours a day, that's a place where we know they're going to be. Do you feel like the schools in Richmond County and Burke County, which are,
my area?
Yeah, that they're doing enough?
From a child's perspective, from my children's perspective, they think the lunches are crappy. They come home hungry. Oh, mommy, this was terrible. My opinion is, I don't think that the lunches are deserving enough that the kids would want to eat them. I may be saying something that I'm not sure, but I'm going to try to say it anyway based on the things that my doctor tells me. He says, Monique, you have to eat so you don't get fat. Because, if you're not eating, you're still getting fat. Because when you do eat, you really go overboard. So if the kids are hungry because they're not satisfied with the meal, I'm going to say that's kind of helping them the same way. I think that the meals could be better, and I think that they could be healthier. You know, I mean, even as adults, we may diet all week and have that one great day that we want to have fun. You know, so I think that they could be a little healthier. I think that we could give more salad. I think that there's fun ways to make chicken or fish or beef. But on the other hand, I think kitchen staff is working with what they have. On the PTA side of it, we promote a healthier living. You know, we get access to places that are willing to give salad bars and things in schools and grants to help promote a healthier living. And we fill out for things like that for our school with our principal's permission.
One of the things that they know works is after-school programs that feature exercise as opposed to kids, you know, doing homework or sitting around. Is that something you think that, and they've done those studies here using Richmond County's elementary school kids to show, yeah, this works, these kids get fitter, they actually do better on math and do better at school because it apparently helps their brain. Do you think that that's something that, you know, the PTAs can go to the school board and say, this is something maybe we ought to explore?
No, it's not something that we could per se go to the board and say, this is something that we ought to explore, because one, they would tell us that that is just not our area of expertise. You know, we could find programs that would be able to come before the board and present it, and that's part of what we should be doing. We should be looking for programs, and I'm glad you brought that to my attention. We can find programs that maybe the board would be willing to listen to do more healthier things inside, but for us to go to them, that's not something that they would, you know, they would say, yeah.
But they wouldn't listen to you as parents and say, as the parents' organization, you know, is there something you can do to help make our kids healthier? Is that not a role of the PTA?
Actually, that is the role of the PTA, but then we're also talking about a board.
Right.
You know, we're talking about the board.
Do you think their board's responsive enough to parents?
I don't think that this board is responsive enough to parents, and it's not the board's fault either. It's the parents' fault. We allow it to get this way. So, you all are going to ask me questions and I'm going to answer them, and I can answer the questions that I want to answer, and I cannot answer the questions that I don't want to answer. That's my right. And we stop exercising our rights as parents because a lot of times, here's the thing for me, because now I have on my parent hat. Everyone is so quick to say that we don't care. We only care when there's an issue. We care all the time. It's not that we don't care, it's that we're not informed or we're misinformed. That's what makes this PTA so highly effective and the number one in, as far as the membership, the number one in the nation with the highest number of increase, is because this PTA is very transparent and very much informed. If you tell me what's going on, I am telling the leaders. You know, when you make parents more informed and feel more welcome, they are more, they will definitely react and pitch in and do what needs to be done. But for so long, that hasn't been happening. I think that making a decision without even informing us or asking us how we feel about it is wrong, but we have allowed that to happen. And this happened way before I got here. You know, way before I got here. So here you go, me with myself saying, oh no, you're going to answer my question. Ain't no such thing as you're not going to return my call, because I'm going to get an answer. And if I don't get an answer, I don't have a problem saying I called you 19 times or you hung up on me, or here's my concern and here's my right. Oh, by the way, do you know who your boss is?
But can you cite some specific examples where the decisions were made where they did not seek input from, you know, parents, your organization, that kind of thing, that you would have expected them to seek input?
Upcoming right now. Now they have an advisory board, but who sits on that advisory board for the parents? Are these people who are on the ground with the parents at the schools, or are these just people that we put there? You know, I can say getting ready for registration. We're the ones that can make this whole process very simpler. We're the ones, if you would take the input from us as parents to say, this is what was the hardest part of registration. Maybe if you try it this way, it may work. You know, getting ready for registration. Not just depending on us to vote over the website as to what day we would like school to start. How do we know how many people even know that's up? How many people really even know about the website? We know it's there, but you know, we just, you go on it, you see the first page, you don't take the time to look down the side, because we have a lot of people who are not computer savvy, including myself. You ever got an email from me? You know, that's one issue. The bus route is something that they should take in consideration from parents. You know, you may have one child on this one particular street, but then down the street you may have 10 children. Why can't we make it a neutral ground where the bus drivers are not having to make all of those stops? What about putting volunteers on the buses? Talk to the parents. See how they feel about it. There was something that I said to Lucivella last year, the year before last, was in hiring the bus drivers, why don't you look inside and go into the cafeterias and go into the parapros to help with this bus situation? Why not put them on the buses? Why not take the kitchen staff that gets off of work before that and put them on the buses to help in the problem areas? Why not talk to us about the waivers? No one even understands the waivers right now. They don't even know what the waiver really means. You think because there's a 2-minute article on TV and a big spread that parents really understand that. Let's start talking parents' language. You have to talk the same language as the parents. And that's not happening. That's like me reading off my bylaws by section, and you don't understand a word that I'm saying. You know, but I can quote the section off and understand it very clearly, but you wouldn't understand it without me breaking it down. Let's talk about the way that these new schools are opening. You know, let's talk about the process of getting into the schools. Let's take some of that kind of advice, even down to the menus. Let's talk to the parents about the menus. Let's talk about issues that may arrive with the teachers. You know, how some of the ways to bring the parents and the teachers together. Let's talk about that. Let's not just talk about the parents that come into the school that have on their pajamas, you know, and want to raise a whole lot of noise. When I see parents that do that, I kind of have a conversation with them and talk to them and say, hey, you know, and it works, but they're not talking parent language. They're talking my board member, you know.
What's the main way that the board communicates with parents? I mean, how much communication is there?
They're actually, I'm going to assume that they are communicating through the executives who are communicating with the principals who are communicating with the parents. That's all I can assume.
Well, you're a parent. How much communication do you get as a parent?
Anything that goes home from my children's school, I actually get, but then I'm also a parent that sit at the board meetings and go back and ask questions, and I'm also a parent that goes on that website and read things. So I'm a different kind of parent.
I guess if you're passive, you're just waiting for the board to tell you things, and you're not really going to get much information. Is that...
Pretty much, you're not going to get a lot of information if you don't seek it. You see, as a parent, we have a large responsibility, and we must do our part. And our part is not just sitting back waiting on the delivery. You know, our part is to get in there and get in the trenches and say, you know, what does this mean? How did this happen? How can I help? You know, we have a responsibility, and we have not always held up to our responsibility.
So, going into the next school year, what are the biggest challenges the school system is facing from a parent's perspective?
Actually, based on my conversation, our leader is back. And with Dr. Robinson coming back, we have more confidence now than we've had in, I'm going to say, since he's been gone. The parents are just happy that he's back. We have trust in him. He was a communicator. Now, I will tell you this. When Dr. Robinson was here, that's when the parents was paying attention. They were paying a huge amount of attention. They would be all on Facebook talking about something that Dr. Robinson said, you know, or wanting to be at a school. If Dr. Robinson was coming to your school, the parents was there. And not just to complain, but to be in his presence, you know. So at this point right now, we know that Dr. Robinson is going to come back in here and get back on his path, and we'll be very much informed. And that's another thing for PTA. Dr. Robinson communicated with PTA. Dr. Robinson did call me, and he did say, Ms. Braswell, I am about to do this. How do you feel? I need you to get the word out to the parents. When he did his first I call it the State of Union Education, his State of Education, he did call me and he did say, I want all the parents to come. The parents need to hear what I have to say. And you all were there. There was a lot of parents there that night. There was a lot of good feelings leaving that room. As parents, we learned some things that we didn't know. We were hearing praises in this area, and when Dr. Robinson broke it down, it was just so simple to understand. It just gave you a whole new light. So at this point right now, we're feeling pretty good. There will be some communication.
What is your concern level, however, regarding Dr. Robinson? And, I mean, he's been through a lot. What's your concern level that he's going to come back and be the same guy that he was before his, his illness? I mean, that is a possibility.
Had you been at the board meeting last night, you would see that Dr. Frank Robinson is back in his full capacity. When Dr. Robinson spoke last night, it showed me that Dr. Frank Robinson that came here before he got sick is back. When he opened up his mouth and he intervened into the conversation in which Dr. Browntree was having, that there's nothing wrong with his brain, nothing at all. When it comes to education, he spoke from his heart, he spoke with humility, and he spoke knowing what he was talking about. Very clear. I understood everything he said last night. Everything. And was smiling about it. Because he said what it was. He said, here's what the problem is, and here's the area in which we need to go. He's back. You can tell him a Dr. Robinson.
Well, it's still, I mean, the board still
they have
assessing the situation. So there's no guarantee that the board will stick with Dr. Robertson, or I mean, they may go in another direction, which brings me to this point. If they decide to go in another direction, how disappointed would you be, and what would you do to try to convince them not to, or I guess muddy the waters, so to speak? I mean,
one, I would never muddy the water.
okay.
That's just not my character. If they decide to not to accept him prior to that happening, I'm going to have a lot to say as a taxpayer, as a parent. But here's the thing about Dr. Robinson. If Dr. Robinson is not ready, he's ready now though, but if he's not ready in 8 weeks, I have 8 weeks to see that. And at that time as a parent, if I feel, if I see that he's not functioning back in full capacity, and I'm not talking about how he walk, because sometimes I walk from here to that door and I'm very tired, but this right here and this right here is working. I'm talking about his level of work. In 8 weeks' time, that man is so honorable, and he loves education, and he loves the children and the community. I believe he'll walk away himself. And if he makes that decision himself, then I will stand 100% behind him. I believe that if I see, or I know in my heart that he's not ready, that I could actually go to him and say, Dr. Robinson, I'm looking at you and you look like you're being worn down, and that, that this is putting more stress on you. Maybe you should think about it, And he's an honorable man. And if he has to put any thought in it, he'll do the right thing. And I'm glad we're on the record, because I want to thank the board for making such a wonderful decision to bring him back. Those 4 hours are going to turn into those same long hours that he was doing when he first got here. We could see that from last night, because he was at the board meeting, and he will be at tonight's board meeting as well. That sounds like more than 4 hours to me.
So what's the biggest challenge for the schools? What needs to be fixed first?
What needs to be fixed first? Your staffing. Your staffing definitely needs to be fixed first. You need to take a look at your staffing from the top all the way down and see who really needs to be here and who really doesn't need to be here. You need to see who's effective and who's not effective. Not effective based on whether or not I like you, and not always effective based on whether or not your numbers say that, but effectiveness based on you may not be a strong 5th grade teacher, but you may be a dynamic 1st grade teacher or a kindergarten teacher. You may be too strong for kindergarten or 1st grade and would be a terrific middle school teacher. You need to really look at the needs in every area. At a previous board meeting, I heard one of the board members say, it seemed to me like you'd be getting rid of some of these secretaries that got secretaries. Okay? Take a look at all of that kind of stuff. Look internally, on maybe some of those people could best serve inside the school system. Could be very efficient. Look at the needs. Look at the needs of the area. Look at the needs of the children. Just because you live in what's considered the ghetto, the hood, don't mean that's what you're going to produce. And when I first came here, my first experience, and I believe we were under Charles Locke, my first week of being here, my children did not get home from school in a timely manner, and I got on the phone and I began calling. And I was told by the principal, well, bus is coming. And when my kids came home, they said, Mommy, we don't ever want to ride that bus anymore. There was such a big fight and there was blood and the police pulled us over. Okay, so you know. So you knew. I really had a fit. And I called the principal and he says, well, Miss Braswell, you know, you live in the hood. I said, excuse me? He said, you live in the hood? I said, let me tell you something about the hood. I'm from the streets of Brooklyn, New York. Never lived in the project, but grew up all around it. Let me tell you what came out the project. Principals, doctors, lawyers, judges, nurses, policemen. What are you saying? You are not a product of where you live. You know, you're a product of how you live. And he said, well, I said, you know what, it was a pleasure talking to you. Hung up my telephone. Never had the same respect for that principal. That principal should not have been there because that's the wrong mentality to have with the parent. Now I need to call the Department of Transportation because I need to know about this situation here. I called down there and I got some satisfaction. Bottom line for me is, why didn't we have a monitor on the bus, and why are there 80 kids or 79 kids on that school bus and no monitor, and why are my children sitting 3 in the seat? We came from a place where that didn't happen. Well, the law said, okay, I'll get back to you. I figured out what the law says here in Georgia, and I said, oh my goodness, my kids will never ride the bus again. And they didn't until the after-school program this year, which they could walk home. And I said, you all walk home. But since they have the no cell phones law, and if my kids walk home and something happened, you know, they first stop on the bus. I'm 20 seconds from the school. So they do ride the after-school bus. But
so does PTA have a view or an opinion on how to explain habitually low test scores in Richmond County? I mean, you know, people always talk about it and it's like, is it the teachers, is it the parents, is it the fact we have a high amount of kids living in poverty? Like, what is it?
It's everybody. It's everybody. It is not just the teachers. It's us as parents too. It is a known fact, and I am a witness to that, that when parents are more involved with at their children's school, the children are prone to do better. My children's 6th grade year, straight A's, maybe A and 1 or 2 B's. I was there every day and they dare not get out of line. They dare not get their homework done. 7th grade year, I was so wrapped up in PTA and all of this, I was not there as much. I seen that in my children's grade. I also seen it in my children's behavior. It was easier for the teacher to say, do I have to call your mother? You know, and they'd be thinking like, oh, my mother, she at a convention somewhere, so you do what you got to do, their children. But I seen it. I seen a drop in their grades, and I seen a little drop in their behavior because they still never been under no major fire, any fire really. So it is a known fact. I also see that why a teacher can be very frustrated. I definitely see why a teacher can be very frustrated because of the attitudes that they're given by the students, and that you have to blame on us. But once again, a lot of times that's normal behavior to some parents, that when their child are, you know, unruly or disrespectful, that's not unruly or disrespectful to them. But we as outsiders, it is. If my sons or my daughter walked up in this room right now and they didn't say hello, I would have a problem with that. Maybe you wouldn't have a problem with it, but I would. You know, you all would have a problem when you're talking to my children and they don't say yes ma'am or no sir. But one thing they'll never say to you is huh, what, why, but they'll say yes or no. I mean, they say it now, but my mother say, you teach your kids how to say yes ma'am and no ma'am. I say, you ain't teach me that. So, you know, we just weren't allowed to say, huh, yep, nope. We had to say yes or no. So it's just based on how you react. I'm an advocate also for medication for ADHD children. I didn't understand what that meant. You know, it was normal behavior for children to be bouncing off the wall. To me, it really, you know, that's what I was seeing. I thought I was a bad mother. I thought I just had no control over my children. I didn't know that there was something that was happening there. And the thought of a medication just was like, I would never do that. You know, I'd rather scream and bust blood vessels in my head and stuff than accept what goes on. And after looking into it and seeing the difference that it made for my children, I had to do what was right for my children. But what it also did was open my eyes up to the insight of the school and the teachers. The teachers are labeling my children as troublemaker, hard-headed, don't want to do their work, and that's not the case. It's not that they're troublemakers, it's not that they're hard-headed, it's not that they don't want to do their work, it's that they can't do that stuff because they just have this burning. And when I got my children the help that they needed, guess what? Me and the teacher had a better relationship because she was no longer calling me all the time saying somebody was doing something. And this was in like kindergarten and first grade, calling me saying that there was a problem. She was now calling me saying they did a terrific job today. Or when I was coming up and I said, everything okay? Terrific. And I try to get the teachers to understand. They're afraid to say to the parents, maybe you should take a look at this area. And the parents are afraid to say to the teacher, I just don't know what to do. You know, I go through this all the time. When they communicate together and understand what the problem is, it makes better for the child in the classroom and better for the child at home.
Do you think that some parents, or maybe there's a large number of parents that sort of advocate the responsibility of being responsible for their child's education by saying that's what the school is? You know, you go out the door, you go to school, you get educated. That's not. I mean, that teachers educate you. I don't do that. I'm not responsible for that. You think there's an attitude out there like that that's part of the problem?
I honestly think that, of course, people think once we send our kids to school that that's what it's going to be. And there's a larger percentage of people that think I have to help educate my child. So I think the percentage of people who saying, you know, I just don't want to be bothered is far less than the people who say I have to be bothered. Example, my children got perfect attendance. And I base everything off of my experiences. My children got perfect attendance because if they wasn't at school, that meant they was home with me and I needed a peace of mind. I mean, you know, some mindsets are like that. Would you believe that I was feeling like that just because I didn't want to be bothered with my children? Sometimes that is absolutely how I felt. I did want to be home alone. But did that stop me from checking homework? Did that even stop me from picking up the phone, calling and saying, everything okay? Did that not make me answer my phone call when the school was calling me? Absolutely not. But I knew perfect attendance was an award I could be proud of as a parent, and I would have a peace of mind in the same breath. But I think it's a very small percentage, but I think society has made it seem to be a way larger percentage.
I think we have time for maybe one wrap-up question. If anyone has a question, or is there a comment that you want to make on some topic that we didn't cover?
I'm here. Y'all are taping me, so I'm not volunteering anything.
Not unless you're not looking for that. Have you experienced firsthand some of the work that Wayne Frazier's done at the schools he's been to? His particular style of active involvement, trying to get parents involved. It's a recipe for success everywhere he's been. Do you think that's him doing that? Or do you think that's something that if you could clone him or have other principals model would stem some improvement in our schools?
I tell you this much, what Dr. Frazier does absolutely could and should be done at other schools. Maybe each principal has their own style. His style is his style, and no one can mark his style. Like my style is my style, and no one can market it my style. But I would personally be a parent willing to let my children go to his school, because when the love that he has is a true love. I believe that that man doesn't get a lot of sleep at night when he knows that there's someone in his school or things going on in his school that's not right. I believe that that man respects his staff. However, if his staff ain't on board with doing what's right for these kids, I believe that he'll step all over them. And I believe that that is the way to be as a parent. If you know that you have people in your building who does not have the same vision that you have, then you have to do whatever it is you have to do. Would I like to see more Fraziers? Absolutely. Would I like to see his style? Absolutely. Am I offended as to things that he say, that things he say, and this is my favorite one, and I'm actually using it with my children. I have one child that has a problem putting on a belt every morning, and he's in the 5th grade. No one would ever think that my children would have that issue. Well, every morning I say, do you have on a belt? No, ma'am. Well, I don't have to say that no more, because I said, you don't want to wear no belt? Go get a pair of pink panties and give them to your brother. I ain't had that problem no more. I haven't had that problem no more. Or I know that that's not something that I would really do to my child. I definitely wouldn't do that. But the thought of me saying that, he'll say, oh no, mommy, I got my belt, and that's good for me. So I no longer have to look at my child when I pick him up, because as a parent I could miss that. He ran out the house this morning, didn't have on a belt. I don't have to worry about that. When he come in my room in the morning, I say, you got your belt on? Or you got your panties on? Which one you got on?
And that's what Dr. Frazier does, because he'll go up and down the halls and tell a boy that has his pants down, hey, pull up your panties, and they don't hear that, so they don't have their pants down.
Or he'll say, pull up your shirt, because I want to make sure you got on your panties. He said they're free to wear it. They are free to wear it, but this is a condition. And that's how we were raised. If you wanted to do this, if you wanted to go out on a date, you had to clean that kitchen. How fast did you clean that kitchen? So Dr. Frazier is just doing what he was taught to do, and I don't see anything wrong with it. Now, grant you, everybody don't have the toughness that Dr. Frazier has, and a lot of parents don't understand it. That's their preference. The one thing we have to learn how to do is adjust your personality to the people that's around you all, around us. I have a lot of people that I have to, when I leave out of this room, I'm going into another room where I have to adjust my personality again. When I run into people, the opposition that Dr. Frazier would have, I just adjust my personality, and I'm sure he's learning to adjust his personality. Don't never have to adjust his personality for me. I like it just like that. You give it to me straight, and you give it to my children straight. Do we need more Wayne Fraziers? Absolutely. Do we need his style? Absolutely. Will it ever be accepted? Absolutely not.